Good morning to all of you joining from India. And it's indeed a great honor for me to probably welcome Jeff Hoffman. Um, how do I welcome Jeff Hoffman? Do I welcome Jeff Hoffman as a very successful entrepreneur? Or do I welcome Jeff Hoffman as a proven CEO? Or do I welcome Jeff as a worldwide motivational speaker? Or do I welcome him as a best selling author? Or do I welcome Jeff as a Hollywood film producer? Or do I welcome a producer of a Grammy winning jazz album? How do I welcome him? Well, the Jeff Hoffman I know, I welcome him in the best way in which I probably know him. A man who inspires people in more than 180 countries to be in entrepreneurship, to get into entrepreneurship. That's what he has been doing. And I think I've not seen a very selfless person and an inspiring person like him. Jeff, we welcome you today for this webinar, and we are very thankful.
Good morning to everybody there, and thank you guys so much for inviting me and having me. I was very honored when the good doctor asked me if I would come speak to you today. So we are going to talk about what it takes to become an entrepreneur, to be successful at it. But I think, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a screen share now, and I am going to pull up this presentation. Okay. You can see the screen. Can you just nod and let me know that you can see my slides?
Yes, sir. We can very well see
Okay.
the screen.
All right. So this is what we're going to talk about today. But what I want to do first is I want to spend a few minutes to talk about why to be an entrepreneur. And the main the main focus of our talk today is how. But let's talk about why, because it's really important. People think about entrepreneurship as they think about tech and they think about business and they think about getting rich or making money. And I'm not telling you that any of those things are not part of it or that they're wrong, but those aren't the reasons. Entrepreneurship is not a job, it's a mindset. Entrepreneurship is a way of thinking, not a job. And the way of thinking in entrepreneurship, the real reason that we want people to become entrepreneurs and why I do things like we're doing now is because entrepreneurship is the key to self-determination. What does that mean? It means that entrepreneurs are the people that get to design their own future. Everybody's out there wondering what their future will be like. Entrepreneurs are the people that just make it. They say, I'm not going to wonder what my future will look like. I'll just design my future. So what I want to tell you, if you're thinking about whether or not you want to be an entrepreneur or not be an entrepreneur, that's the real reason. The main reason to do it is to be able to design the future. I will tell you guys that I got I got an engineering degree in software engineering when I was at university. And I got a job when I left university. My parents said, which exactly what your parents told you, they said, go get a good job at a good company so you can get a good salary. So I got my engineering degree. I went and I got a good job at a good company and I got a good salary, all of which would have been fine. But I have to tell you a hard truth. I didn't have a good life. My parents were happy, but I wasn't. I went to work every single day at this engineering company and I hated it. I didn't like my boss, the person that I worked for. I didn't respect him and I didn't like working for him. I didn't like the way he treated people. And I went every day and sat in my cubicle and looked out the window and wondered what the whole rest of the world was doing and wondered if I was going to spend my whole life sitting somewhere I didn't want to be just so I could have a good salary. And so I quit. And my parents were very upset when I walked out because I said, I just can't do this. And my mother said, what is wrong with you? You had a good job at a good company, you had a good salary, and you just walked away. And I said, Mom, because I just didn't have a good life. I want to do things that I like doing. I want to be a happy person, and I'm not. And so what I wanted to do, and this will make sense as we go through this, for each of you, one of the important questions to ask yourself is, if you close your eyes and dream, what is the future you want for yourself? Not the one your parents are telling you to have, not the one that you think society thinks you should have, not the, not the one that everybody else says, but what's the one you wish you had? And so I knew what mine was. And mine was that what I really wanted to do, I grew up in a small town in the Western United States. And I only had a single mother, and she had 4 kids and was working more than one job, trying to make things work. And I grew up in a little town where nobody ever left. Nobody wanted to do anything. And I'm not judging people. What I'm telling you is all my friends never left the little area where we grew up. And remember, today when we're talking, there's no right or wrong, but it's about your DNA, right? I'm gonna talk today about entrepreneurial DNA. I had big dreams. That's what entrepreneurs do. I had a vision of my future because that's what entrepreneurs see. And it wasn't the life I had. And so entrepreneurs say, I see the way my life is, but I see the way it could be, and I want to go create that. And what's even better, which we'll talk about, is entrepreneurs can see the problems in the world around them and say, I don't just want to make this better for me, I want to make it better for my whole village. And then I want to make it better for my whole city. And then maybe the state. And then maybe I can create change for my country and someday even the world. Entrepreneurs see the way the world could be and they decide to go build that. So what I wanted was I wanted to travel. I wanted to see the entire world, right? For me, as a child in an American school, India was a far off mystery. Nobody I knew ever was going to go see India, but I wanted to see it. I read about it in books. I looked at it in pictures and videos, but we had no money and no chance to go anywhere. So my dream was to go see the world. Literally, what I wanted to do was I wanted to go, before I die, I wanted to go visit 50 countries in the world. That was my big dream. I told all my friends, before I die, someday I will visit 50 countries. Everybody laughed at me and said, it's never going to happen. You don't have any money. Your mother doesn't have any money. You don't even have a job. You're not going to any countries. So this is where entrepreneurship came in. What I said was, no one, you know what my friend said? They said, Jeff, no one is going to give you a job and pay you to fly around the world. And there's no job where you get paid to travel around the world. And so I said what entrepreneurs say. I said, well, then I'll just make that job. As an entrepreneur, you have 2 options in life. You can go out and find a job, or you can create a job for yourself. Entrepreneurs do the second one. And when my friend said, you're never going to find a job that pays you to fly around the world, I said, fine, I will make that job. And so that's part of the story that I'm going to tell you. As an entrepreneur, you create, and by the way, remember that I told you I did not like the company I worked for, and I did not like the man that I worked for. I didn't like the way he treated people. So what entrepreneurs do, you know what remember I told you, entrepreneurship is a mindset, it's an attitude. And people kept telling me, if you keep complaining about your job, you will lose it. And I said, okay, I don't want it anyway. And they said, well, a lot of companies around here have the same problems. And I said, then I will start a brand new company that doesn't treat people that way. Again, the goal, the beauty, the privilege of being an entrepreneur is, instead of complaining about the place you work, why don't you just go make a place to work that you'd love to work in? So I actually took out a sheet of paper and I wrote down, if I could create a company that I wanted to work in, what would it look like? How would it behave? And then I just went and started that company. I created the company I wanted to work for, and I created the job that I wanted to have. And so that is the beauty of entrepreneurship. And so now I'm going to tell you about why I made a lot of mistakes. I made them all more than once. I failed more than once, but eventually we figured out how to do this. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. These are the things that if you want to be an entrepreneur, You want to create your own job. You want to design the company that you wish you worked for. And then you want to live the life you want, not the life everybody else tells you to live. These are the things you have to do to be a successful entrepreneur. So with that, we will go and we will start. So here's the first thing. The first thing I need to tell you about being a successful entrepreneur is solve a real problem. Okay. And why do I tell you that? I work with entrepreneurs, all over. The last time I went to India, I took a tour, a speaking tour with CII, with Confederative Indian Industries, and with YI, with young Indians, to I think 7 cities in India, and met with lots of young Indian entrepreneurs. Um, and just in India, like in many parts of the world, the problem with many entrepreneurs is that you have an idea that you think is really cool. And I say, what are you working on? And you say, well, this thing, I'm creating these. And I say, well, what is that thing and who wants one? And you say, well, hopefully somebody. Okay, what you do is you come up with an idea, you create a product or a service, you push it out into the world, and then you try to talk people into buying it. But here's what I'm going to tell you. The world's most successful entrepreneurs, they're not inventing something that no one's ever thought of. They're inventing something to fix a problem that everybody is already complaining about. So I'm going to give you my first example. My friends were creating products and then trying to sell them and convince people to buy them. Here's what I was doing. When I left my job, I was unemployed and I had no money. And I bought an airline ticket one day to go see somebody that I thought could mentor me. And when I got to the airport back then, the line was very long to check in because at that point you had to get in line and go to, like you can see in this picture, a ticket agent at the airport, show them your ID, and they gave you a boarding card. A boarding card was literally just a piece of paper. That's what a boarding pass was. And the line was long and it took 1 hour. And when I got to the end of the 1 hour line, the plane was gone. I missed the flight because the line was so long. And I said to the woman there, this is ridiculous that we are all standing in a line all the way back, a really long line, just so you can print out boarding cards on a printer. And the woman said, well, you have to have a boarding card to get on a plane. That's the way it works. Sorry. And I stood there and I was thinking several things. I was thinking, here's what I want to tell you. Entrepreneurs, what everybody else does when they see a problem is they complain. Do you know what entrepreneurs do that everybody else doesn't do? Entrepreneurs are the people that instead of complaining, they stop and they do 3 things. First, they say, is this a big problem? Does it affect people all over India or all over where I live or all over the world? And if the answer is yes, it's a big problem, then entrepreneurs do a second thing that everybody else does. They stop right there and they say, is there a better way to do this? And if the answer is yes, I think I could fix this, then entrepreneurs do a third thing that everybody else, that no one else does. They own it. They say, you know what? They tell their friends, you guys can go home because I'm not leaving until this is fixed. So what I want to tell you is next time you hear yourself and all your friends complaining about a problem, stop and say, maybe this is what I should fix. This is a problem that bothers a lot of people. And instead of complaining about it, I'm going to be the one to fix it. So I'll just finish telling you that story. For me, standing in an airport, right, and looking at these long lines and people missing the flight because it took so long to get to the front of the line just to get a boarding card. And remember the other part. What was the future I wanted? I wanted to create a job where I could travel around the world because no one was ever going to pay me to do that. So standing there, I said, wait a minute, this is that moment. And so what I said was, instead of complaining about airport lines, I'm never going to do that again. It could be the same in a train station. And so I went home, and on that Friday, I sort of started my first real company. And today, if you were to go to airports pretty much anywhere in the world, and you check yourself in now, you don't wait in a line. In most airports in the world, you go up to one of these kiosks and you check yourself in. That was my first invention. I was 20 something years old. I had no job and no money, and everybody was mad at me. And I said, I'm going to fix this problem so all these angry people in the airport and later in the bus station, the train station, wherever, can just go up to a kiosk and get their own ticket or boarding card. So that's what I created. And what was the really neat, cool part about that was, do you know what happened after I finished building this thing? An airline in Europe called me and said, "Hey, we heard about this kiosk you built for ticketing and check-in." They said, "Is there any way you could fly to our country?" The first country was Holland, the Netherlands. And they said, "Could we fly you to the Netherlands to see your product?" And then when I got to the Netherlands, they said, "Have you ever been to Europe before?" I said, "I've never been anywhere in my whole life." And they said, "Well, why don't you stay the weekend and we'll give you a tour of our country." And then I was thinking, this is insane. This is all I ever wanted to do. And now I'm in a country and they're giving me a tour. On the way out, they said, "Mr. Hoffman, don't forget your money." I said, "What money?" They said, "We want to buy the kiosk." And I said, "Are you kidding me?" And my friend said, "Where were you this weekend?" And I said, "I was in Europe." And they said, "Dude, you don't have any money. How did you go to Europe?" I said, "This is the craziest thing. That's my new job. Every week, a different airline calls me from a different country, and I fly to that country and I deliver these machines. Then I go see the country. Then I pick up my money. Then I go home." And they said, "That's crazy." So you know what happened? My goal that all my friends thought was just a big dream of visiting 50 countries in my life that I was never going to do in my job. Today, I have been to 97 countries. And the craziest part of the story is that I get paid to go to them. All I ever wanted to do was take care of my bills and my family, pay my bills, take care of my family, take care of the people I care about, and travel. So I created a job of traveling by creating a company that solved a real problem. I'm going to tell you before we go to the next key to success. The way to know if you're solving a real problem is this. If you are building a product, if you have a startup as an entrepreneur and you're building a product and you're waiting until your product is finished, and then you're going to go out in the world and you're going to tell people, "Hey, buy this thing." And you're trying to convince people to buy it. That's one scenario. The other scenario is people start calling you. When I was building these kiosks, you know what happened? People kept calling me and saying, "Here's my money, take it." And I said, "The kiosk isn't ready." And they said, "Well, please, I want one, take my money." If people keep calling you to see if your product is finished because they want you to take their money, then you have a real product. If you are telling people, "Buy one," and they say, "I don't know," and you say, "Trust me, just buy one," then maybe you should think. So I want you to be really honest with yourself if you're an entrepreneur. If you're trying to convince people to buy your product, or are they trying to convince you to take the money? That's how you know. And I want to tell you one other point. In the end, we were very lucky that we were able to sell our technology company for millions of dollars. And people said to me, I had a lot of friends that were telling me, "I've never been focused on money. It's important, right? I didn't want to be poor, but I never thought about money." And people said to me, "I've been trying so hard to make money and I don't have any. You never cared about money and you're the one of our friends that made it." And I'm going to tell you why. And this is the way I worded it for you guys. Don't chase money, chase excellence. The people that are so focused on making money get distracted from doing the only thing that's ever going to make you money, which is creating something amazing. Don't worry about the money. Don't talk about an exit strategy. Talk about an entrance strategy. Talk about how you're going to make an amazing product or service in the world. Focus on creating something amazing in the world, and you'll never worry about money. What happens when you create amazing products is money finds you. All of a sudden, people came into our office one day from a big giant company and said, "Your products are amazing. Can we buy your company?" And I looked up and I never for one day thought about making money. And suddenly they showed up in our office with a lot of money and said, "Your product's amazing." Focus on excellence, create something amazing, and you will never worry about money. If you worry about money, you'll be so distracted that you'll never create something amazing and you'll never get paid. So the difference between me and my friends is they were all trying to get rich. I was trying to get excellent. I was the one that wound up being successful because I actually created something while they spent all their time trying to figure out where to get money from. Next, a big key if you want to be successful in life and successful as an entrepreneur, stop trying to do 5 things at once. okay? The most successful people in the world got there by figuring out what was the one thing they could win a gold medal at. So what I'm going to tell you is entrepreneurs come to me and they say, Mr. Hoffman, I have 5 ideas. So I have 5 chances to be successful. And they say, what should I do? And I say, get rid of 4 of them and pick the one that you are most likely to be able to do really well. And a lot of times people are afraid to do that because someone else will take the other 4 ideas. They probably will, but you know what? You'll have 5 more ideas tomorrow. You're never going to run out of ideas. What you're going to run out of is time to execute them. So you need to go build something in the world, and you build one thing at a time. And just to give you an idea, why do I use that analogy? This is a friend. His name, if you guys are Olympic fans, his name is Michael Phelps. He's an Olympic swimmer, but he's won more gold medals, Michael Phelps, in the Olympics than anybody in human history. But what I want to tell you is there is a reason that you've never heard of an Olympic medalist that won a gold medal in swimming and a gold medal in football and a gold medal in cross country, right? Track and field. It's never happened because it's so hard to win a gold medal at anything in your life that you're never going to win it in 3 things at once. So what do I mean by that? Way back at the beginning of the internet, as an example, I used to talk to Jeff Bezos all the time. And do you know what Jeff did? For many, many years, Amazon only sold one product. They only sold books. And you know what Jeff told me back then? He said, I'm going to be the best darn bookseller on the planet. When I am the best bookseller in my category, only then, 7 years of only selling books till he became the best at something. I have another friend who unfortunately just passed away tragically this past year, but his name was Tony Hsieh, and this is his company. Tony created Zappos. You know what Tony told me? I'm going to be the best darn shoe seller in the planet. Before he sold anything else, Amazon only sold books. Before Zappos sold anything else, they only sold shoes. What am I telling you? Be the best darn something that you can be. Pick one thing. Our company, Booking.com, we said, let's just do hotels. The company today does business in 190 different countries and only has one product. Almost all of the revenue is hotel rooms. Find the one thing you can be best at and focus all your energy on that. Here is the next point, and I'm going to keep moving because I really want to make sure we have interactive time for you guys to be able to ask questions. Here's the next one. So, like I said, stop doing 5 things. Pick the one you think you can win a gold medal at and put all your effort into that one thing. Here's the next one. You have to distinguish yourself in the marketplace by building a brand. And what does a brand mean? A brand means that you and your company and your product are making a promise in the marketplace. What are you promising me? What are you giving me that's different? Why should I buy your product? By the way, do you want to know what Amazon's brand promise was? Why should I buy? I can buy a book from a lot of places. Why should I buy a book from Amazon? You know what their brand promise was? Because we are the most efficient delivery service in the world. Nobody can get you a book faster. So Amazon lives its brand promise, right? Why do you think they invented Amazon Prime? Because their promise was nobody can get it to you faster. Why do you think they started investing in drone delivery? Because their promise is nobody can get it to you faster. Very, very clear. If you know anything about the company Zappos, their brand promise was that we have the best customer service in the world. Every time you contact us, you will leave happy. Our people they literally wrote a book called Delivering Happiness because that's their brand promise. So what I'm telling you is pick the one promise you want to make people that most distinguishes you in the marketplace. Now, if you know, I hope you all know this store from the US, Walmart. But it's very interesting because people that shop at Walmart has never said that their products were high quality. They don't promise you quality. Walmart has never said that they will give you good service. They make one promise on all their marketing. It says always low prices. All they say is our prices are the lowest anywhere. So when you go to Walmart, people do complain about their service isn't very good and their products aren't great. But if you ask somebody, then why do you go to Walmart? They will tell you because it's the lowest price I can't buy a light bulb for a lower price anywhere. They have one brand promise, pricing. This is another store in the United States called Nordstrom's. They promise you the opposite. I once went in there. They promise you the most amazing experience you will ever have. It's a high-end store. I once went in there and to buy a sweater for my sister's birthday. And I was carrying the sweater, walking out, and I suddenly noticed that there was a man playing piano in the middle of the women's clothing department wearing white gloves. And I stopped and I said, who's paying you to play the piano in the middle of a clothing store? And he pointed at the sweater I was holding and he said, the sweater you're buying is paying for me to play piano in the store. And only then did I look at the price. And I said, whoa, I don't want to buy the store. I just want to buy a sweater. And he said, sir, you walked into Nordstrom. You knew you weren't going to get a good price. You came here because they have piano players. You came here to pay for an experience, not to get a low price product. He is right. The second you walk in that store, you're expecting a piano player and someone to greet you. You're not expecting good prices. So that's my second tip for you. Figure out what promise your company makes to the world and stick to it. Pick the one thing. If it's price, then live it. A Walmart store is not nice, but that's how they get a low price. A Nordstrom store is extremely nice, but they have to charge you for it. Pick your brand promise. Next, I want to tell you, stop trying to sell your product to everybody. So often, when I ask entrepreneurs, this is what I say. Who will buy your product? You know what you guys tell me? Who's going to use your product? Everybody. And everybody in India, everybody in my state. I always have to tell you, you don't have enough money to market to everybody. Someday, everybody might use your product, but the companies that achieved rapid growth, they did do so by doing the opposite of what you think. They didn't try to broadcast. And what broadcast means is to try to get everybody to use your product. They did something instead called narrowcasting. And what I mean by that is you guys recognize this picture. This is sports, right? I actually, many years ago, got approached by the team that won the Cricket World Championship in 2010 in India. I actually met the players and the team, and they wanted us, we have a movie company, they wanted us to make a movie of India beating the UK and beating Australia and winning the World Championship. And the reason why is they said, people partied in the streets of India for 4 days. No one went to work. The country was crazy about its cricket win and its cricket team. We understand the emotion of sports, right? When people are in sports, they absolutely love sports. Oh, sorry, that was 2011. I see somebody I thought it was 2010. That World Cup was 2011. You guys are correct, my mistake. The point is, that in sports, we recognize what fans are crazy about. But here's a really interesting thing. In business, every product, every company has fans too. Somebody in the world loves your product so much. So instead of trying to convince everybody in the world to buy your product, spend your energy finding the people that absolutely love your product and sell it to them first. So narrowcasting is the way all the companies, I'll go back to the Amazon example to keep it simple. Some people went to Amazon and said, I don't like books. And Amazon did not early on say, okay, well, let's sell you something else. What they said was, we only sell books. If you're not a fan of books, you should go somewhere else. And what they did was they got everybody in the world that wanted a book that they could get to buy it from them. But what those people did was they told all their friends, it's only a book, but it's an incredible company. And then when they owned the category and all the people that loved them couldn't stop talking about the company, only then did they start selling something else. So find the people that love you. Stop trying to convince people to buy your product. Instead, go find the people that already want your product. I always tell people, instead of trying to talk people out of no, spend your time finding people that would already say yes the second they meet you. The next piece I want to talk to you about is this. Everybody, do you know where people, well, I'm going to tell you a story. I was doing a television show with CEOs and innovators. and the host of the show, there was a group of us. She said, when you have a good idea, and I want you all to think about this, what's the first thing you do? And all these CEOs, these leaders said, when I have a good idea, I go and meet, I get my team and we go into the conference room and we go on the whiteboard. I didn't say that. What I said was, when I have a good idea, I get my team, I get my keys and I go outside to my car. And they said, what? You leave the office and go to your car? I said, absolutely. They said, why? I said, because the second I have a good idea, I literally go ask the people I think are going to buy it if they are going to buy it. Now I'm going to share with you how I learned that lesson. One day, and because here's what people do wrong. You design your products in your office, right? You're sitting in your office, in your chair, on your computer, creating ideas and innovations in products. Then you're hoping the person at the other end will buy them. The best, most successful entrepreneurs, they're not in their office. They are out standing with the customer saying, I'm thinking of building one of these things. Would you buy one and how much would you pay? So the most successful entrepreneurs don't design products from their office outward to the world. They design products from the customer inward. And so your question is, how do I do that? And the answer is by learning to spend a day in the life of your customer. And I'm just going to give you a quick example. How? Well, actually, I can do it there because I work with a lot of agricultural entrepreneurs in India. And they're sitting in their office and they're designing products for rural farmers in India. And I say to them, are you a farmer? They say, no, I'm actually an agricultural engineer. And I say, do you live out in the city or do you live rurally on a farm? They say, I live in the city. And I say, so how is it you're designing a product for rural Indian farmers without standing on a farm with rural Indian farmers? Get out of your office, go to a farm and talk to a farmer. Quit listening to your own ideas, listen to your customer. So the story I was going to tell you very quickly was I was talking to a gentleman who built retail stores that were not supposed to work, but they worked anyway. And I said, how did you know your store was work? All the experts said your store wouldn't work. And he said, Jeff, the problem is my employees, my offices look like this picture, but my customers look like this picture. My employees went to university and they got graduate degrees and MBAs and they know supply chain logistics and finance. He said, my problem is my customers are farmers. My employees don't eat at the same restaurant as my customers. They don't live in the same town. They don't wear the same clothes. I said, what did you do? He said, I bought farmer clothes. I got in my car, I left town, I went out to a rural farm, and I spent the day at the restaurant where the farmers eat, and I bought them coffee all day, and I talked to farmers. They told me how to build a business, not the experts. So what I started, by the way, that man's name was Sam Walton, and his store was the store Walmart. And I said, how did you know how to build Walmart? He said, I didn't know. I just asked the farmers because that's who he built his stores for, were small town Americans in the beginning that tended to be farmers. So you know what I started doing? I scheduled days where I'm not in my office. When I have a good idea, if my idea is for rural farmers in India, you know where you're going to find me tomorrow? Not in my office. You're going to find me changing clothes, dressing like a farmer, and I'm going to be in the mud on a farm talking to farmers and saying, hey, here's an idea. What do you think of it? Let the customer design the product, not the experts. Next one, we just have a couple more points and we'll do our Q&A. This was, as all the years I was a CEO, this is what was on my door. My door said, when people walked into my office, your ideas are welcome here, but execution is worship. Why do I say that? Because all day long in my life, everybody comes to tell me their great ideas. But you know what the simple truth is? Everybody talks and nobody does anything. A lot of times people say, I'm afraid to tell people my good idea because they'll steal it. You know why you don't have to be afraid? Because 99% of the rest of the people, they might talk about your idea, but they never get off the couch. They never go out and build anything. Everybody talks, nobody builds. Sometimes when you see the world's most successful people and you think, she must be smarter than me, he must be smarter than me, they're not smarter than you at all. The difference between them and everybody else in the world is they just got busy. They said, you know what? I'm going to just go start building something and I'll fix it as I go. Everybody else is still on the couch talking and they're afraid to start because they don't know the answer. Start, build something, execute, create while everybody else is talking. You will get it wrong. You will make mistakes. You will fix it. You will be way farther ahead than the people that haven't started anything because they don't know what the answers are. You don't need to know the answers. You don't find them until you start building. So go out and execute, and focus on operational execution. What I mean by that is I write down what, at any point in my life, I write down what I'm trying to build, what I'm trying to accomplish, and I write it on the wall. And I'm just using this example. If you were building a flower shop and your job was to sell flowers to people that want to buy flowers and wherever you live in India, then what you should write on your wall, in your office, in your home is, I got to sell more flowers. And every day when you come in your office, what I do when I come in every day is I look at the wall, and I'll stick with this example. Today, I need to sell more flowers. And then I take out my to-do list. Every one of you has a to-do list that has 20 things on it. And I ask this question: which of the things that I could do today actually help sell flowers? And I write a line, I cross off every one of them where I can't see how it's going to help me sell more flowers. And I don't worry about the 20 things on my to-do list. I worry about the 2 things on that list that will sell flowers. And I don't ever get to the other 18. And you know what I do tomorrow? I take the list again and say, what 2 things could I do today? Maybe it's 1 thing, maybe it's 3. What things could I do today that will help me sell more flowers? And every day I stop myself and I stop my teammates and I say, what are you working on right now? And they tell me, and I say, how does that help us sell more flowers? And our rule is to keep asking each other, what are you doing right now to sell more flowers? And if you don't know how the thing you're doing right now can help sell more flowers, put it down and go do something else. Even though I'm the CEO, my rule was, if I ask you to do something, you can say to me, even though you work for me, say, Mr. Hoffman, I'm not sure how that's going to help sell more flowers, so I'm going to say no. My employees are allowed to tell me no when I ask them to do something if they don't understand how it sells more flowers. Make sure that every day you're asking yourself this question: is my plan for the day going to help me get closer to my goal, or am I just wasting my time? Almost done here, I promise. The next one, I think it's the last one, is for you to realize that no matter how smart you think you are, you can't do this alone. No great accomplishment in human history. The idea might have come from one person, but the execution came from a lot of people saying, we are going to support this. You can't do it yourself. So the world's best leaders, the successful people and entrepreneurs out there, are the ones that realize that you should spend less of your time running your business every day and start spending more of your time finding people smarter than you to do it for you. The scarcest resource, when I ask people, what do you think startups and entrepreneurs need to grow their business? Everybody always says funding, but that's wrong. The truth is that the scarcest resource in the world is not money, it's talent. Human capital is way harder to find than financial capital. If you give a whole bunch of money to average people, they will achieve nothing. But if I meet 3 of you and you're brilliant and you're passionate and you're committed and you're driven, if I give a little bit of money to 3 rock stars, they will do something amazing with a little bit of money. If I get a lot of money to average people, they will still do nothing. Focus on talent, on finding talent. The most important job you have is not to run the company, it's to surround yourself with people smarter than you that can run all the parts of your company for you. My business didn't grow until I stopped trying to do everything myself and I started looking for people smarter than me to do all the things I wasn't good at. The simple truth is each one of you is only good at one thing, right? I have never hired an engineer who also does my taxes, write my legal contracts, and does the marketing. Engineers do engineering. Lawyers do legal stuff. Marketing people do marketing stuff. Finance people do financing stuff. Why do you think you're different? Just because you started the company or you're the managing director or the CEO? You're not. You're only good at one thing. The faster you figure that out, the faster you will start looking for people. I am a soft engineer, I told you, but I found out early on I'm a bad engineer. You know what I'm good at? Marketing. So you know what I do in my companies? I go to all the marketing meetings, but I don't run any of the other meetings. I find people smarter than me to do engineering, customer service, and finance, and I get out of the way. I say, don't call me because I don't know finance. You guys do. That's why I hired you. I'll be doing marketing down the hall. So I want to close with this. And I just want to tell you that excellence is an attitude, right? Everything we talked about here requires extreme hard work and dedication. Your attitude literally determines your outcome. And so I always told people, I was never smarter than anyone else. People said, what do you think made you successful? And I think a lot of it was my attitude. Part of my attitude was I was never afraid of failing. What I was afraid of is not trying. If you're afraid of your parents culturally or people around you culturally labeling you a failure, then you should not do this. You should not be an entrepreneur. But you know what I'm way more afraid of? I'm way more afraid of waking up 30 years later in the same cubicle and realizing I never did anything I wanted to do. I never traveled the world. I never made music. I never made a movie, all the things I was able to do because I was afraid to try. I would rather try, fail. You can all laugh at me and make fun of me, but at least I'm out there living. I can live with failure. I cannot live with spending my whole life wondering what I might have been able to do if I'd only tried and never having tried. So your attitude determines your outcome. Be willing to try, be willing to fail, and be willing to admit that you're not as smart as you think you are, and that there are people smarter than you that can help you get there. So with that, let's stop. I will close this.